I'm a huge fan of Metroidvania style games. Recently, I have been thoroughly enjoying going through games such as Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, and Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, but I definitely needed a change of pace from games that ended in night-based wordplay, so I decided to pick up the Castlevania Advance Collection. Oh. Anyway, we're going to avoid that one for now. I'm going to play a highly rated Castlevania game I've managed to somehow never get around to playing, but was highly requested to me while I was playing Bloodstained live over on my Twitch channel. I'm trying to start streaming more of my achievement hunting endeavours over on my Twitch channel, and would love if you could stop by whilst I'm live to cheer me on, or just to hang out, as it sure as hell helps keeping you sane on some of the grinds that these games demand me on the road to their 100% completions. Well, most of the time anyway.
Please, put me out my misery. Please.
Please.
Oh shit.
That is actually so fucking tilting, man.
I'm so depressed.
Without any further ado, here we are, completing all 13 achievements available in Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, as part of the Castlevania Advance Collection. Will this game hold up to the standards of modern gaming after hearing so much good about it? Let's find out. Welcome to Gamed Out, where we will look into the achievement list of games and see if they fit in keeping with the game's overall design and feel, and whether or not it's worth your time to 100% them. We start off the game, and we are greeted with a screen telling us to enter a name for our save file. We settle on Mr. Neeb. Shortly after, we enter a cutscene. We are playing as Soma Cruz. 36 some years ago, after the defeat of Dracula from the Belmont clan, sealing his soul into the solar eclipse, with prophecy warning of his return. Soma is a transfer student who studies in Japan and possesses the power of dominance. This is what leads us into the game's USP, the soul absorption. This is what drew me to the game in the first place. I was a huge fan of being able to acquire dozens of different and unique abilities that could lead to playing the game very differently room to room, and encourage some fun playstyle switches to try and discover what enemies were weak to what, and what works for your own personal playstyle. After visiting a shrine at the Eclipse, we are drawn into the castle, and thus, the adventure into completing Aria of Sorrows truly begins. We meet Genya, who asks why we have come, and of our intentions, before we slay an enemy and absorb its soul. Realising we have the power of soul absorption, Genya sends us on our way whilst taking care of our friend Mina, who was sucked into the castle with us. We start off by messing with the controls, trying to work out what buttons do what, going so far as to sit there googling it. Aria of Sorrow's buttons. Before I realise the Advanced Collection comes with a very useful panel that shows all the controls. It also includes a very helpful bestiary, with each monster, their weakness, and whether or not we have their souls. We don't mess around too much with this. However, seeing what souls we have at a glimpse on the side of the screen whilst hitting enemies will be a godsend later on. But more on that shortly. After exploring for a while, we encounter our first boss, Creaking Skull, and we take him down whilst nearly getting boned early on in the run, scraping through the boss with 55 health to spare. However, we get our first stat upgrade and our first achievement, the Grudge of a Dead Soldier. Or as I called it on air, Grudge of a Dead Soldier. Soldier? Shoulder. Soldier? Shush. I'm having a stroke. Continuing further into the castle, and admiring just how well the style of these old Castlevania games still actually holds up to this day, we make it to a man named Graham, a missionary, who we proceed to totally trust 100% up front. I mean, look at this guy. Bright white suit, slick back hair, this guy's a villain. Not long after this, we encounter our second boss to play through, the Manticore. Sadly, a lot of these bosses become standard enemies a little later on, leaving the amount of unique bosses in this game at a minimum, which is a little disappointing. However, the game is quite old and still ahead of its time with the soul mechanic, so it kind of balances out. We defeat him swiftly and receive the achievement, a Deadly Chimera, for defeating the Manticore boss. Continuing on, we rapidly head through more of the castle before meeting Yoko, another church member, who tells us to be confident in ourselves. How lovely. Anyway, hurrying further through, past the pixelated ladies firing suspect white goo from their chests, and into another boss room. Once we take this tanky bastard down, we get the achievement Iron Fist in an Iron Glove. Meet Hammer, an arms dealer who will sell us weapons, items, armor, and maps, all of the above coming in very useful later. Furthermore, later down the line he will sell me a very helpful ring for the completion, called the Soul Eater Ring, which we will definitely need to save an arm and a leg for, as it costs 300,000 gold. What? Oh. You could have told me it was 300,000. Whoa. Do I have anything to make that money up? Oh no. Thanks, Matt. Oh boy. Although also in the room is the double jump. That's going to make getting around a heck of a lot easier. Whilst exploring the halls, we find a room with a giant mirror in. So I can really take a long hard look at myself and really think about my life choices. This opens up fast travel around the map. This will come in extremely helpful as I unlock new abilities for map traversal, and the inevitable sack of souls I'll have to go back to grind in the late game. Further on into the castle, we meet an amnesiac, who refers to himself as Jay, who senses a great evil inside of us. However, we say whatever to that guy, and continue forwards. We head down into a basement and encounter a big golem blocking our path, who we swiftly whack down to chunks, unlocking Breaking the Stone Ceiling, for our 4th achievement of the run. Also unlocking the slide dash for our troubles, meaning some of the small gaps we encountered earlier are now traversable, after we dig up some unburialable geology puns with chat. Yeah, I'm adamant that I'm not a geology pun lover. I'm really graphiting to not make any of my own. We rock on with moving on straight away to our 5th boss of the playthrough, the many-faced god. I mean, the Headhunter. This 3-stager was a toughie, with the 3rd phase in particular being a right pain in the ass. However, we persevere and defeat them, to obtain the Added to the Collection achievement, which I add to my own personal collection before moving on. I really wish I could delve into strategy more when it comes to the bosses in this game. However, a lot of it is just mostly moving back and forth like you're busting for a piss, and trying to bonk them without being bonked yourself, and chugging potions to avoid immediate death. The combat in general is pretty weak in this game, sadly. However, it is definitely a game of its generation, and I think that's just par for the course really for these old school Castlevania games. We continue on, passing through the floating gardens and further into the map, uncovering as much as we can to save us in the future troubles when we're going for 100% map completion, before bumping into Graham once more, who explains we were born the day Dracula was destroyed, making him presume he is Dracula, which is a bit of a flawed logic, but we take his words at face value and proceed through my least favourite area of the game, the clock tower. This area sent me slowly mad, with the Medusa heads in the area continuously flinging my gormless ass into the spikes. We make it through and once more encounter Yoko, and inform her that Graham has gone off the deep end, and that we are now her ally because of this. Moving further through the clock tower of pain, we encounter Death, who, not gonna lie, pushed my in hard the first go around. However, making sure to observe his patterns, we beat him on the 2nd try, unlocking our 6th bloop bloop of the run, postponing the inevitable in the process, and soon after find the Sculler Soul, which will allow us to navigate the water area at the south of the map with ease. We proceed through the aqueduct at speed as we realise this area is huge, and we may be best to tackle this area when we may have more powers due to the size of this area, until we come across Yoko being stabbed and wounded by Graham. Cause how the heck did we ever see that one coming? Before Genya returns, and tells us he will take care of Yoko, so we can pursue Graham further. We continue through the cemetery, before running into the next boss of the run, Legion. Now I didn't know it at the time, but this boss has multiple hitable sections, and if you do not destroy each of the sections and destroy the entire outlayer of this boss before destroying its core, it will lock you out of obtaining the boss soul, and negate the achievement for collecting every soul. This is the only missable soul in the entire game, which is a massive kicker considering how many souls there are, and it is a massive shame that you couldn't reattempt or earn it another way if you didn't know this. Thankfully we destroy its outer layer with ease, even if it takes a while, and defeat the core to unlock Corpses of the World Unite. Not gonna lie, I'd listen to a death metal album with that name. Either way, we backtrack through the area until we reach the arena, which we go through at a good pace until we find Balor, the boss of this area, and swiftly take care of him too, unlocking Bat Avenger in the process. As well as gaining the giant Bat Soul, granting us the power of Bat Transformation at will, which will make navigating the rest of the castle incredibly easy, as long as there are no Black Sabbath singers about. Moving back through the arena, we bump into Jay once more, who remembers conveniently that he is actually Julius Belmont, a vampire slayer who leaves to find his weapon, the vampire killer. Nuance clearly not wasted on the Belmonts. Now, as we only have a small portion of the map left to explore and 5 achievements left to go, we decide that now's a good time to start clearing up the map finding better gear, and starting to find some of the souls we need for the Every Soul achievement. To start with, we explore the aqueduct area and find an icon on the wall, and decipher that we need a certain soul to be able to do something in this room. Thankfully, it's a soul we happen to already have to hand, the soul of Curly, which allows us to charge at speed to break through the water barrier. This means we can now explore the forbidden area, which in turn leads us to find some items that will become extremely helpful during the tidy up, including a mimic, who drops a very useful soul which gives you money depending on your damage taken, which will help us save up the 300,000 gold we need for the Soul Eater ring. And we also find some hidden walls which lead to a sword which ends up being the sword we use for the rest of the game, the Claim Solace, or however you pronounce that, which hits like a runaway truck and has an extremely wide arc of swing, which will help us keep a safe distance from most enemies that want to cause us troubles. I spend the next 30 minutes or so cleaning up the map, trying to make sure I've uncovered basically all but the final boss rooms ready for the end game, before starting off to the worst part of this experience, the grind for all 110 available souls. Thankfully, with a little research, we find out on average the drop rate for souls is anywhere between 0.8 to 3% roughly, as an average per drop. And with that handy mimic soul we got, we can go farm money rapidly at the ever-hated clock tower. So we head there, and we do what any sane person would do in the same situation. We jump in and out of the spike pit, over and over again, saving and re-impaling myself, like an acupuncture-obsessed lunatic, until we eventually rack up the funds we need to afford the Ring of Souls, which will greatly decrease the time hunting down every soul will take. We head back to Hammer, and the ring is ours. For several hours, I back and forth across the castle, killing many enemies over and over and over and over, until I get most of the souls apart from the souls we have to claim in the last area. I'm gonna level with you all. This was an ass. Some monsters felt practically super glued to their souls, and waiting for them to drop even with the ring was a nightmare. Running back and forth in and out of rooms and hitting enemies just for nothing to drop, sometimes 50 times in a row. Also, there were a few souls I just could not find. A little research showed me there was one enemy that spawned in only one room, and another which would fly through a single screen, and if you blinked you missed it. I mean, look at this! But with that, now it's time to end this first playthrough proper. We reascend the castle until we reach the top, making sure to have the Flame Devil, Succubus and Bat Souls equipped, as the books we had been finding around the map mentioned to have them equipped, and we approach Graham for a final showdown. Now, even though Graham isn't exactly a name that strikes fear into the hearts of all, I mean it's Graham for sake. That sounds like a middle manager from Leeds rather than a harbinger of all power. He sure as hell gave me a run for my money though, in his second form at least. However, we stat check him to death, basically tanking all of his slaps to unlock Battle for the Throne. After absorbing all of his power upon his defeat, we realise that we are Dracula all along, with Genya coming out to confirm that he lured us to this castle as an attempt to preempt the Dark Spirit and to stop Dracula from fully returning once more. We are informed we need to go to a special realm only we can access to return to normal and be rid of Dracula's spirit. We make our way back through the floating gardens, through a barrier that was once blocked off to us, to find Julius waiting for us. He says, "Fight me." We say, "Rather not," and he attacks. We fend him off to quickly earn a friend's promise, with Julius promising to kick our ass if we fail our mission. Point taken. We make our way into Chaos, the final area of the game. We follow the linear path laid out, making sure to finish collecting all the souls along the way, farming any new beast we encounter on the way through. When we find the last monster we're missing for the soul collection, we hoover up his soul and unlock Omnipotent Dark King. There's really not much left to do on this playthrough now, as a few room later, we find a magical beam of friendship, and all the characters we met prior, they gave us all their best wishes before taking on Chaos. At the start of the battle, the boss sucks out the 3 souls we have equipped, however we soon knock the souls back out of him and take on his final form. By this point of the game, we are so overpowered we defeat Chaos with ease and finally end Soma's descent into Dracula's castle. We unlock Victory Over Yourself, with our friends congratulating our defeat of Chaos. The eclipse ends, we say how cool we are, no literally, and we roll the credits for the first time. After having no achievements unlocked for hours, being able to fly through 4 in an hour was wonderful. Now we have one more playthrough to do. With another file on your save at 100%, you can enter Julius as your character name to play in the starter menu. Now you can play as Julius. He plays a little differently to Soma. For a start, you can't change weapons, items, or upgrade through level ups. Instead, you have to kill bosses to get stat orbs which increase your strength, constitution and the like. We get to grips with Julius's new moves, and we start by finding several bosses around the castle too to get stat up. We don't get many before heading straight to the top of the castle to fight Graham again. We get our asses kicked a few times in a row, and with getting a couple more boss orbs, we re-attempt Graham. We remember that we have the uppercut, and abuse the hell out of that fact, as it keeps you above all of his problem zones. Whilst we watch the hands to make sure we don't drop in to get a bitch slapped to the face, we finally put down Graham once more. The Julius run wasn't too bad, especially using the cheesy uppercut attack to stay out of Graham's way, but with that we unlock our 13th and final achievement, a Belmont's Destiny. Now, after playing Bloodstained and Symphony Night, getting a chance to finally play Aria of Sorrow was a treat for the most part. It holds up fantastically, with a vivid art style, great range of gameplay styles and systems to choose with the Soul system, and a broad range of areas and enemies to encounter. I especially enjoy being able to play it through the Advanced Collection, so I didn't need to constantly check a wiki for things I was missing. Well, for the most part anyway. There were a couple of parts of this game that blew chunks. The bosses weren't very interesting. Completing the map is all well and good and encouraged exploration. However, the soul farming side could be a bit dull. Thankfully it didn't take too long, and didn't quite bring my mood down of the game overall, as for the most part the game was fantastic. And I'd highly recommend it to any fan of this genre of game, even in 2024. Now, the achievements. The achievements all felt fair and felt in keeping with what you would do in the game. I love that it encouraged going for all the different souls to give you a chance to try them out with the Omnipotent Dark King achievement. Nothing felt too out of the way. Even the Julius achievement was a fun little side adventure to go through at the end, even if his playthrough felt shallow without having access to all the different souls or equipitals. It was pleasant there wasn't any achievements that expected you to do something too bizarre or obscure just for the sake of it, considering there's also really some pretty bizarre things you need to do in the game just to get some of the souls. When it comes to Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow, I personally believe going for the completion is the best way to play it. It gives you all the content without overstaying its welcome, and actively encourages you to interact with all of its content. I have had a fantastic time completing this game, and this is also my first attempt at having a crack at making a video to go along with my experience of the completion, and actually trying to look a little deeper into the design of the game's achievements, and I'd really love to be able to start doing deeper delves into game achievement lists in the future, to actually see if the game's achievement list can enhance or improve a game. Aria of Sorrow, I think, is a great example of a game's that achievement list actually helps encourage you to interact with all of its different mechanics, explore so you can try out all the new souls, and I think that's a fantastic thing, and going for that Omnipotent Dark King achievement, however frustrating it could be at times, was a wonderful way to find a new playstyle I enjoy or test out some new mechanics, and I think that's a fantastic use of it. Even having that Julius achievement was a wonderful way of being like, oh cool, there's this cute little side adventure you can do, and that to me is a really interesting way of building your achievements around getting to experience everything. If you found this enjoyable, please do all the things that YouTube likes, like liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, all that. And do let me know below if you'd like me to cover more games like this, or what I should cover next. I'm really interested in doing this some more, and I've had such a good time that I'd love to hear some other people's opinions on achievement design in general. With that, have a wonderful day.